as we discussed earlier, Kent County is experiencing large population growth, and housing is having a hard time keeping up, resulting in higher prices as demand soars. Two groups in the county set out to examine how this is impacting neighbors, real people in our community. Take a look at this preview of K-Connect and Housing Kent's latest documentary, Finding Home.
Let's take a look at the county statistics. 1 out of 6 African-American children access the homeless system. This is compared to 1 out of 130 white children. Just think about that for a second.
The homelessness started 2017. Before we moved into Red Roof, I would sleep in my car. And my children went to Las Vegas with my grandma.
I ended up becoming addicted to drugs to try and keep going at the 16 to 18 hour long days at work. I struggled with it for about 7 months before I ended up being evicted.
You never know if the person you pass on the street was one of those kids or is one of those moms. Homelessness has a lot of faces, and behind every face is a story.
I've always seen people on the corners of the street panhandling and stuff like that, and I look at them and say, well, maybe they need to get a job.
When we realized that the system goes from no housing to house by choice, it really demanded a change in how we look at things. It demanded a redesign.
The video you just saw is from a documentary called Finding Home, which was created in collaboration with K-Connect, Housing Kent, and Candor Media. It addresses homelessness and the housing crisis here in Kent County. And today we're lucky enough to have Salvador Lopez from K-Connect and Eureka People with Housing Kent in the studio. Thank you both so much for coming in today.
Thank you.
Before we jump into this documentary, I first just want to talk about the role that both your organizations play in our community. Salvador, I'll bring it to you first. I know K-Connect has their hands in a lot right now.
Absolutely. So K-Connect is a collective impact organization that brings private and public stakeholders, organizations together for really one common good, and that's to make sure that all children and families in Kent County have access to be as prosperous, as thriving as possible. And so we have a continuum from prenatal to career, which to your point makes us really be everywhere for the community. And so K-Connect's been around for about 10 years, and so we're excited to be here with you.
Wonderful. Excited to have you. Eureka, can you talk with me about Housing Kent?
Sure. So Housing Kent, actually K-Connect helped birth Housing Kent as a part of a community planning process that took place over 3 years. And so we too are a collective impact backbone organization, which basically means that we help solve complex problems at scale. The problem that we help solve in the community is housing. And so we're after housing stability for everyone in Kent County, which essentially means that we want everyone to live in safe, quality housing in neighborhoods that they choose. And that's what we work towards. The 3 big things that we're after are increasing affordable housing, dissolving homelessness, and eliminating racial disparities in the housing system.
Wonderful. And because your group exists, because this documentary exists, we know that that is an issue here in our community. Can I ask what made you both say we need to bring a bigger light to this? We need to create a video.
So from the K-Connect side, this started in 2018 when K-Connect received a letter of 11 different leaders in the community saying that this is an issue that needs to be addressed at a system level. And so from then on, the work began, and fast forward to really 2021, when we started to really thinking about making sure that the story of what was happening in the community was being told. and then more so for future generations to come, because often in our community we do excellent work, we bring people together, but what happens if we forget it? What happens if we just move on without it? And so I actually met up with a colleague and friend, Jose Guadalupe Jimenez, who is a founder of Candor Media, and we started talking about storytelling and how important it is to make sure that the learnings, specifically the lessons learned from the project, were being visualized in a way that a lot of people can have access to.
I remember watching the video all the way through without sound, because oftentimes if you see things without being able to hear what people are saying, it also tells a story. And one of the key messages that came out was the one mother who had her children. And I just always remember being taken with the love and the care that she was showing towards her children, or people who are struggling with homelessness. There are a lot of negative stereotypes that are associated with them. And sometimes what we want to do with our narrative and our storytelling is what we call ethical storytelling. So we want to tell them show them who they really are in a very dignified way. And that means to let people know that they are resilient, that they are beautiful, that they do love their children, that they are invested in their community.
Wonderful. And you talked about, housing insecure or battling homelessness. I know a big part of that documentary talked about there's no real middle ground here. Yeah. Where do you stand right now in trying to fill that gap?
So on the House by Choice side, for example, we still have a housing crisis in Kent County where we have a supply issue, 35,000 units short, that we need to fill by, I think, 2027. On the homelessness side, or the unhoused side, we have, I don't know, 10,000 families every year that are experiencing homelessness that we're struggling to put into permanent housing. But the biggest gap in the housing system that we have is right in the middle. And those are people who are struggling every day to make ends meet. I call it the silent killer in housing, because they're the ones who are, again, paycheck to paycheck, or who are like one car breakdown away from losing housing, or one car payment away from slipping into, or one financial catastrophe away. And that's about 65,000 people in Kent County, which is a pretty sizable number that most people don't know about. And so that's the number that's most alarming and most concerning, but again, most invisible, because a lot of people self-resolve when they're in that space. And so you don't necessarily see them or hear about them, but they're the co-workers, they're the person that's sitting next to you at work every day, and you just may not know it because they don't talk about it, because it's just, it's a pervasive issue in the community.
Yeah, thank you so much for your insight on that. And Salvador, where do you see kind of the housing, I guess, sector moving in 2023? What would you like to see change, and how is K-Connect, positioned to be a part of that?
Well, K-Connect is positioned in a very interesting way here, because we really bring systems together, right? So we don't build them, we don't design them, we really connect them. And the way that we do that is by bringing folks from education, from healthcare, from the business or private sector, from government, and saying, this is an all of us issue, right? This intersects, housing intersects with just about anything, right? And we all have a positive role that we can play, but we need to stay connected, we need to be involved, right? And we need to really show that we care by way of our behaviors. We plan on intersecting and working closely with Housing Kent and Eureka and her team, because it plays such a big role in the work that we're doing in education, in healthcare, anything related to K through 12. Our children depend on it, right? And so that is something that I would love to see going forward. How does Kent County and Grand Rapids specifically become a leader in this space at the national level?
Well, thank you both so much for joining in on the conversation today. And if you would like to see this documentary in full, you can access it on K-Connect's website. We'll be sure to have that information here on the screen. Thanks again.